Hello everyone, it's BC. How you doing today? I just wanted to come in with a weapon that I think could change SMG game, and it's actually an AR. I know a few people have talked about this and dropped a couple videos on this weapon, but I tested it out, and something just felt different with it. I've seen there's a lot of mobility builds and things like that, but I finish fights and then get on with it. So let me show you kind of what loadout I have going for the weapon that I'm talking about. We're talking the Ex Libris blueprint is the one I'm using for the AS44. This weapon just feels better, and it just works as an SMG. Tried it as an AR, and it's a little wild for me at long range, so I figured I'd boost up the fire rate and see what I can do close range. So let's go through some of my attachment setting selections, and I'll kind of explain where I'm at and why I like this better than some. Recoil booster, as I just mentioned, fire rate, that's what I want. Take it up as high as I can. So we're using recoil booster muzzle. For the barrel, we're using the Empress Falconet. Again, that fire rate. It does have the negatives of the accuracy and sprint to fire speed. I'm not terribly worried about the sprint to fire speed on this weapon, because I am just trying to get there and fight, and I can use it kind of in a short mid range. Slate reflector because I want an optic. Fan of these iron sights in the least, so that's what we're going to be just to kind of get a sight picture. The Kovalevsky custom, I don't really mount with this weapon. I might crouch, so that recoil control might help me, but I'm terribly worried. Burst Pro, the accuracy and recoil during sustained fire is what I'm really looking at, because shooting this, it's fun. And the fire rate on it is just so high that you're going through quick. So that's kind of why. That you could use some of the other attachments. I've seen the remove stock used, but again, I'm not terribly worried about movement speed. Maybe short to short mid range. Close range. Gung ho, so I can fire while I'm sprinting, moving. Worry about my auto attack sprint throwing me off or any of that stuff. Fully loaded, as I said earlier, this gun flies the ramp beginning as I possibly can, and then picks them up on the way as we clear some squares. Polymer grip, again, accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. I want to have as much of that as I possibly can. Also, flinch resistance, I kind of like that in a close range situation, because you're going to be getting hit sometimes from multiple areas, and I want no possible way from it, especially because of the fire rate with this weapon. I'm using the 7.62 Gorenko 50 round mag. Recoil control again, because I want to try and changes. The movement speed is a nice bonus, but it doesn't necessarily move the needle for me. It does kind of almost negate the previous movement speed decrease. I like the ammo capacity, and of course we do like that fire rate. I'm using the incendiary rounds as well on my ammunition, because I just think incendiary rounds are broken right now. So why not? Carver foregrip, that recoil control. I don't really try and beat people with the ADS. Usually when I push buildings, I'll hip fire the first couple bullets as I'm pulling my gun up. So it's helpful. This is not a hip fire build, so I'm not too worried about full out hip fires. Hip fire. So now that I went through the weapon, I kind of want to show you the stats behind why I chose this and the information behind it. I selected and went through True Game Data, picked a couple the SMGs that I've used in the close range builds. Their ARs and the MP40. So mostly my SMG that I've used in the game. And I'll kind of go through why I like this build better than the others and show you kind of the stats and what it looks like based on their testing and good content. All right, so we are on true game data here. Looking at those three setups, the Itra Burst, the MP40, and the AS44. The AS44 is movement and mobility build that I have set up here. So those all look great and like some quality builds, but I want to show you how much better this build shows up in the TTK. Here in the orange, you're going to see the AS44 that I just walked through and built. Nearly a full 1/10 of a second faster time to kill at 0 meters from the target versus the MP40, which is just overwhelmingly Caldera right now. And as you get further out from the targets, this weapon just continues to do better and better versus the SMG. So I'm keeping it typically around 15 to 20, 22 meters range is like the furthest out that I'm going to use. And then typically I would switch to my AR, but that's just kind of how I play the game. So I wanted something that was stopgap, because if you look, the MP40 that a lot of us are using, the time to kill just drastically drops at 10 meters and then again at like 20 meters, and I just didn't want to chance that. I like to just run it and kind of have a smooth transition between my short range weapon and long range. Here this data supports it. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and look at some of the live testing that I have here and let that speak for itself.
No sweat.
UAV is out of fuel. Returning for resupply. UAV is out of fuel. Returning for resupply.
Holy heck.